Welcome, everyone, to the One More Game podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jeremy Culver, a.k.a. Darce, and with me is the California Thirst Quencher, Pete Leja. Pete, how you doing, man?
I'm apparently having trouble making sure my microphone's on so I can talk when you toss it to me for the intro. I'm doing pretty well otherwise. Just coming off of a long work week where I worked like 8 out of 9 days, but ending with a weekend of pretty incredible football. Divisional round is the best weekend of NFL football for my money of the year. I know we got the Super Bowl. I know you got week 1. I know we got Thanksgiving, but it always seems like the most competitive and interesting and exciting games. Like usually 3. I guess you could argue only like 2 of them were like competitive this weekend for pretty much their entirety. But I mean, all of them were pretty interesting. So it's a pretty fun weekend, all told, even though I was working through basically all of it. But now I got like 5 days off on my next 8. So I get to relax and unwind and kind of recuperate from the heavy schedule I had for a little bit.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's nice that you're going to recover and have some of that time off. But Pete, I'm going to put a little bit of trivia on you real quick.
Ruh-roh.
When do you think was the first time you appeared here on the One More Game podcast?
What? Considering my memories on Facebook were mentioning recently about how I ransomed Zyra's doggy biscuits into getting a second episode, I'm pretty sure it's been about a year.
It has been a year, yes. You debuted here on the One More Game podcast, not as the official co-host at that point, but you debuted here back on January 14th, 2022. So you have been a staple here at the One More Game podcast for over a year, and we're coming up on, I think, close to... I think it was in February was when we officially announced you as the official like second seat. But that was the first time that you ever appeared here on the podcast. So you've been here a whole year. So I got to ask you before
we talked about Armored Core, I think, right? It was Armored Core 6 was like our first. It was like our first episode. Yes. I didn't get to cheat. I totally didn't get to cheat with the Facebook memory thing again. That's absolutely not at all what happened there.
Not at all what happened. But yes, we talked about that was when the rumor of the Armored Core 6 reveal was going to be coming. Little did we know that it would take almost a whole year later for it to actually happen. But how does it feel to you now, knowing that you've been a podcast staple for a year now?
That's pretty incredible, pretty impressive. I mean, I've said before, my favorite thing is my favorite thing about this is getting to talk and just chill with one of my best friends every week. One of the things that I don't say I always do particularly well, but I do hold by is the statement, call people back. And it's really easy to call you back when I talk to you basically every week.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy one.
It's really easy to keep up with you in this case instead of like, just shooting a text like once a month or so. It's like, you say, hey, are you still there? And it's like, no, I actually am forced to talk to you.
Yeah. Whether you like it or not, you're forced to be.
I mean, mostly enjoyable. But then it's mostly enjoyable, and then I'll throw out stupid things like, when are the Bulls going to blow it up? And then I won't say that gets you hot, but then you get into you'll start being like, I'm going to tell you why, and they're not going to do that.
That is me. That is like to the T.
I mean, hey, I am guilty of that 100%. So I'm not judging at all. I'm just saying that conversation did happen recently for the folks at home.
It did right before the podcast last week. I think
if I remember correctly, I thought it was like 2 weeks ago. I could be wrong. I mean, I guess technically it's been almost 2 weeks since we had a podcast.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why my timing's thrown off. So my bad.
But going back to what you said it's mostly been enjoyable. Well, I hope listeners, it's been enjoyable for you, of course, here to the One More Game podcast. And so if this is your first time here to the podcast, welcome to the One More Game podcast. This is a podcast that is centered around making sure you're informed about all the video game news happening around the world, whether it is Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, or PC. If there's this news that you need to know about, we'll make sure that you know about it. When you're listening to this on your podcast service, make sure you hit the subscribe button or the follow button, depending on what your service offers. And if your podcast service allows reviews, please leave a 5-star review and tell everyone why you love the One More Game podcast, because we really enjoy bringing this to you each and every week. If you'd like to be part of the show by asking a question or suggesting a topic for discussion, head on over to pressstartnews.net/one more game and fill out that submission form, and your submission could be used on the next episode. Or you could drop it off in chat when we're doing it here live on youtube.com/presssstart28, and we will reference it as it comes up during the show. A little bit of housekeeping or things that I want to pass along here for you on this episode. First off, as we did say, Pete has been here for over a year now, so we of course want to say a big thank you, of course, to Pete for stepping in when you did, and of course not getting scared and running away, or getting mad and running away over that course of time. So thank you so much for being here. We're also 2 subscribers away on YouTube from hitting the big 200. So if you haven't already and you want to, please hit that subscribe button so you can help us get to this new milestone. And I haven't officially thought of if I'm going to do it and how I will do it, but we may do a giveaway getting to that big 200 number. And lastly, we'll bring it up at the end of the show as well. But as I mentioned last week, we will be doing every episode 2 games that are on sale that you can buy and help here support Press Start and the One More Game podcast. And this week's games are Marvel's Midnight Suns on PC is currently 47% off at Green Man Gaming, which comes out to, in US dollars, $31.67. So if you want to, click that link down below, go buy it. But as I always say, a word of advice: use a card that doesn't have foreign transaction fees, because Green Man Gaming is based out of the UK, so you might be subject to some foreign transaction fees, unfortunately, if you do so. The other game, even though it wasn't reviewed very well, but it is still a pretty well-received game, I would think so in my head. But at this price, I think it's totally worth trying to jump into, is Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song is currently 80% off on Amazon, currently making it only $10. That is on PS5, PS4, and Xbox. So you can go and buy that. Again, use the link down below. It's only $10. And again, what you do there ends up helping support here at the stream. So those are the 2 main things I want to pass along. Now let's get into the last part of this opening, and that is, if this is your first time to the podcast, welcome to the podcast. I hope you enjoy your listen, and I hope you enjoy your stay. But if you are returning, you already know what it is. We start off every single podcast talking about what we've been playing lately. So Pete, what have you been playing lately?
So for the listeners, if you were here last week, I was given a challenge of sorts by Jeremy to play a game that he had talked about last week. It's available on Game Pass right now, called Vampire Survivors. And so I did. And I kind of liked it. I thought it was fun. It's not a game that I would recommend playing for long stretches or a very long time. Jeremy kind of iterated that last week, if I'm not mistaken. It's definitely one of those games to me where if you have like 15, 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes that you want to kill, but it's like you're waiting on maybe you're waiting on your partner to go somewhere, and it's like, oh, but I got like a little bit of downtime while they're prepping, or, it's like 3:30 in the afternoon, and it's really kind of too late for an afternoon nap. But, you kind of need to kill some time before you start cooking for dinner or whatever. This game is a good try. It's basically a hack and slash game. You start out by you start out with 1 character. You can build your characterization up to 4. And you go around and you just basically get swarmed by creatures of the night, vampires, bats, multi-faced weird things, werewolves, mummies, witches, just you name it, and they come after you. You boost up your character. It's basically, it might actually be a roguelite. I'm not 100% if it's considered one or not.
It is technically considered one.
I thought it was, but it's basically in that ilk where you find a bunch of power-ups and you can choose between certain ones to build up your character to make them stronger, and you can increase your levels and stuff like that. And as you get higher and higher levels, your character obviously gets more powerful, but then you're able to unlock more abilities, more weapons and things like that. Some of the more fun things that I noticed when I was playing it, there's this buff called Garlic, which is like basically like an aura around your character that deals damage to the enemies. And one of the more humorous things for me was having that garlic buff on for the aura, while every once in a while, like usually the longer you are in a level, the more powerful creatures come. But there's like a dumbing down aspect every like 5 minutes or whatever, where like you just get swarmed by a bunch of them, but they're like the first group of minions that you face, so they're like super underpowered. But there's like tens of hundreds of them. When you have this aura on, you just kind of go through like a chainsaw. Just like they just run up to you and then they just disappear. They just vanish. They just die. So one of my things that I enjoyed most was when that happened and I had the garlic aura. I just like kind of like run through. It was like just like kind of like a vacuum cleaner, just like mowing these things down. They wouldn't even touch me, and it's just like, well, this is kind of silly, but it is kind of humorous. But in general, I enjoyed playing it. It's not a game I would I don't know if I'd recommend strictly buying it unless you were super into that kind of game. I do strongly recommend like trying to find like it on sale, or if you have Game Pass, all the better, because you just get that game, and if you're paying for Game Pass already. Those would be the biggest ways I'd probably recommend to buy it, or to get a hold of it. I don't know if I would recommend actually buying the game at full price, unless it's like $10 if it's $10.
You wouldn't buy the game at $5?
Oh, it's $5. Oh, never mind. Yeah, buy the game. Well, screw that. I thought it was. We were just talking about a game last week that was like $30, and I was just like, I don't remember the game that I proposed last week, but it was like $30, and I was like, man, that seems kind of pricey. Oh, Stray was what we were talking about.
Stray, yeah.
And that was like 30. That was like $30-$40, right? And I was just like, well, this is only like 5 hours. I don't know, like if I would technically recommend trying to drop that much money, unless you know you're going to like the game. $5, yeah. I'm sorry, I take it back. Definitely. If you're looking for a roguelike game to enjoy, I would definitely recommend spending the $5 on Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, and so I do want to let you know, like, there is, or let the listeners know, there is more than 4 characters. Like, you start off with 4 characters, but of course, as you progress, there is in the main menu, there's a little achievement section, and basically based on your performance, like those achievements, they actually unlock additional things. So like additional skills, different characters, things like that. So like that, the character roster does grow, and each character has like unique aspects of it. But yeah, I got slightly addicted to it for a little bit, even afterwards. So like as I assigned you the task, I decided to play some more of it too. And there was a night that I like played the heck out of it. I got to like stage 4, and played a number of other characters, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Again, similar to what you said, I think that it is a great game, in the fact of like it's a good time filler or time waster, time killer, however you want to describe it. I don't know if I would play it like day in, day out, every night type of thing. Some people would. I think for me, it would really depend on the mood that I was in. Similar to when I played it this past week, I was in a mood that I was like, I want to play it more, because I wanted to be like, all right, I want to get a little bit more into it, as Pete's going to bring this to the table, to the discussion. And yeah, so I played it quite a bit in that setting, but I haven't gone back to it since. The games that I've been playing, I played a couple of different ones this week. First off, I played a little bit more of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, and part of that was because I was trying to fill some time while my wife was making some food for Lunar New Year, and so like I was kind of wanting to play something on the Switch that I could also just like put down if I needed to. And that was the game for me. But the game that I've been playing a ton of this week is Soul Hackers 2. So I brought it up here on the podcast before, and I'm going to bring it up real quick again. Soul Hackers 2 is a game that is made by Atlas. It is technically a second entry into the Soul Hackers series, which is like the long-ass title is called Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoners Soul Hackers. But they dropped all that part and just made it Soul Hackers 2 for this one. And I'm really having a blast with it. I know it didn't get the best reviews, and part of me just doesn't fully understand it. I guess maybe it's because it is a dungeon crawler, and some people just aren't used to dungeon crawlers. It's gotten like, things for like bland dungeons. Part of that, I guess, for me, it's like, yes, the dungeons aren't like the most eye-popping, but I don't think it's like, that's not necessarily supposed to be like the focus. The focus of the dungeon crawler is basically you walk through dungeons, you fight creatures, you fight things until you get to the boss, you do the boss fight, and then you go to the next dungeon, or you go to the next floor of the dungeon. So it just doesn't make sense to me. I love the colors, that the aesthetic that they used, like the colors just pop, especially Ringo's character, who's a digital, basically a robot in a sense. I'm having a brain fart when it's like basically a robot, but it has a human flesh. I know there's an actual term for that, but I'm having a brain fart what that is.
Is that Cyborg, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe Cyborg. I don't remember exactly. I'm just having a brain fart. But like, she kind of is. So she has this like, technological like glow to her in her outfit. It's really awesome. I'm having a blast with it. I'm still enjoying what I've played of it, and it was even more satisfying in a sense. So I'm going to give a quick shout out to a YouTuber that I really do enjoy, called Oni Black Mage. If you haven't checked out Oni Black Mage before, Oni Black Mage basically does what he calls recapitations, which are basically a recap of a game. So he basically tells you the entire thing that happened with a game, and so you could watch the video if you didn't want to play the game, or you didn't have means to play the game but you wanted to understand the story. He does the whole, like, tells from the beginning to end the story. And he did a recapitation on Soul Hackers, the first one, and I've never played it. And so it was really cool also seeing some of the reoccurring characters that are in this one. You don't have to play the first one to know that, or anything, but that was just a cool aspect that I did check out when I was like doing dishes one night, and was like, oh, this character is from the first one as well. I didn't realize that. Oh, this character is also from the first one as well. I didn't realize that. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm hoping I get through that game here in the next week, so I can not because I want to get to a different game, but it's more so I just want to clear out some of my backlog, because I haven't picked up Fire Emblem Engage, and there's a couple of other games coming up that I want to get. So it's like I'm hoping to get through it to get to some of those, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I would totally recommend it. It was almost one of those games that were listed for on sale down below, because it is currently on sale.
Yeah, I was about to say it is on sale on Steam currently for 45% off. So the cheapest one is $32.99 currently, and that offer ends on January 30th. So you got a week to make your decision. So probably should jump on that if you had any thought about actually trying to play Soul Hackers 2, because it's probably one of the cheapest you're ever going to find it at, honestly. So.
Yeah, and it's also on sale on Amazon for PS5, at least that I saw, for $30. So, like I said, I almost put that as one of the games on sale, but when I saw Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song, I was like, all right, $10 is a really good deal. I'm going to throw that in there. So I didn't want to put two $30 roughly games as the options down below. But yeah, totally recommend that. But we have been talking about what we've been playing lately for quite a bit. Let's get to the show, because we got quite a bit of things to talk about. Let's talk about the rumor that Xbox is pulling Halo development from 343 Industries, or are they? Xbox also hit with some layoffs as well as other gaming companies, and Ubisoft CEO apologizes for his statements last week. That's all coming up here on the One More Game podcast, but we're going to go to our main title here, and that is Xbox is pulling the Halo development from 343 Industries. Well, Halo 343 Industries says not so fast. This is an article coming from IGN, written by Adam Bankhurst, and it goes as follows. Amidst rumors that 343 Industries have been taken off of lead development of the Halo franchise, the studio has now taken to Twitter to state that it will continue to, quote, develop Halo now and into the future. 343 Industries studio head Pierre Heinz shared the message on Twitter, saying, Quote, Halo and Master Chief are here to stay. 343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including epic stories, multiplayer, and more of what makes Halo great. The news follows the mass layoffs of 10,000 people at Microsoft, which we will, of course, talk about here in a little bit. And the number of those were hit, of course, at 343 Industries. The Coalition, 343 Industries, Bethesda Studios, all got hit with those layoffs. And shortly after, Halo Infinite director Joseph Staten reportedly left 343 Industries to rejoin Xbox Publishing. Now, the rumor had started swirling that 343 Industries would be taken off the lead development, known by a well-known hacker, which actually goes by the name Bathrobe Spartan, which I found that name pretty hilarious. Said that even initial plans for a story-based DLC for Halo Infinite has been canceled already. In response to the rumors, 343 Industries has planted its flag and said that it is here to stay. Now, Pete, I sent you the original story as well as this follow-up to the rumor because that did come out not too long ago. So my question to you is, what do you think, one, of the rumors and the statements from 343 Industries, and two, we've talked about the reception around Halo Infinite and the multiplayer and all that jazz. And so my question is to you, do you think 343 Industries, or basically Halo, should go to a new developer anyway?
So your last question kind of ties into the original question of what do I think about 343 Industries, whether or not they're going to be the lead developer in games. They've had a lot of issues with Halo, not just Infinite, kind of Halo 4 and Halo 5. They've also had some problems rolling out a lot of this stuff. Halo Infinite may have been the most glaring, especially since it's the most recent, but this isn't like the first time that 343 Industries has had problems rolling out these kind of games. And a lot of the stuff that they are doing, and I want to make this clear. 343 Industries tweet, the one they sent out, which is Halo and Master Chief are here to stay. 343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including epic stories, multiplayer, and more of what makes Halo great. From Pierre Hintz, the new studio head, since the last one went to Xbox Publishing or whatever. That is not inconsistent with the original story, it doesn't feel like, because nothing there says, like, we're not outsourcing any of this stuff to other companies, just that they're strongly hinting we're still going to be the ones in charge. But that doesn't mean they're going to be doing all of the development. They have those statements aren't inconsistent with one another. So I will say that I kind of think they didn't really do a whole lot to necessarily stem the idea that that's going to happen, especially since they outsourced a lot of this stuff in Halo Infinite to other companies. They hadn't really come out and say that this DLC I think it's campaign content that supposedly got canned. They didn't come out and say that didn't get canned. They didn't say that was still coming or not. It may still be. I have no idea. But like a lot of the things that were like, well, we haven't seen this yet. Maybe that's gone. We haven't done this yet. This, that, and the other. They haven't really done anything to allay those concerns at all. And this is all coming on the heels of not even talking about all the layoffs that happened within Microsoft, including with 343 Industries in itself, which means that they are not going to have as many people to actually do some of this stuff still. So I still kind of think that just because will they still be lead developers? Probably their name will be the big one on top. I don't really think anything they've said has said that some of the stuff isn't going to be some or most of the stuff isn't going to be outsourced. And honestly, whether or not it should be, I mean, if 343 Industries has been kind of like the big problem with a lot of this stuff, that's a lot of these issues that they have with the recent Halo games and the Halo releases, maybe it's time to look for somewhere else to go to actually do that. And I hate saying that, especially since 343 is, tied so closely to Halo, the studio is named after one of the major characters in the game and in the series. So I would like them to stick around and keep being in charge and keep doing their thing, but like, their thing also has been like kind of questionable of late. So, uh, you know, it may end up being time like, hey, maybe we need to get somebody else in charge here.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer my second question first, and that's
Hmm.
kind of where I'm going. It's not necessarily like I know game development is hard. We've talked about this here on the episode. Game development is very hard, and so I'm not trying to say that that 343 Industries should lose any positions or anything like that. And it sucks about the layoffs. Again, we're going to talk more about that here shortly in a little bit, but sometimes when things aren't working, when the fit just doesn't seem like it's fitting the way that you envisioned or that it had in the past, sometimes it could be good to let someone else take the reins for a little bit and just test out the waters and try something new. And that's where I think that Xbox and 343 Industries should be at the moment. I think that they should, even if it's just a spin-off in a sense, let someone else develop a Halo-esque type game for a little bit and see how it goes. See if that brings a rejuvenation, a spark, or something to the franchise, because Halo is still important. Halo is still a great game. And again, Halo Infinite was received fairly well critically. It's just it did not nail as it continued to roll out, and the multiplayer had so many issues. And then of course the couch co-op got canceled. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, let's let someone else try this for a little bit. Again, it doesn't have to be a full-fledged like Halo entry, like the next Halo, but it could be a Halo spin-off, or it could be Halo DLC, like they're talking about, is let someone else take that reins. Because it feels like 343 Industries is stuck at the moment. Like something is just not clicking, and let 343 Industries do something else for a little bit as well, right? A different type of shooter, a different type of game even. Give them something else to explore and try something different, because right now it's just not working. Now, what do I think of the rumor and I think of their statement? Slightly different than you. I think their statement is saying, hey, we are the developers, because it literally says, again, as you talked about it, 343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including blah, 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 blah. And I've had this discussion with some other people before, is like every studio does some sort of offset developing. Like that's just how it is. If you ever look at the credits of all your favorite games, there's going to be more than just the studio that is developing it, right? Like they always, outsource maybe like some character designs or animation or whatever it is. But they always outsource. What I think this statement is, though, is this is typical company PR statement that, of course, they're not going to come out and go, yeah, we've been removed from developing the games, right? Like they're not ready to confirm that. They're not in a position to confirm that. Again, this came from a leak. And it's similar to what you said, is they didn't come out and say that the story DLC is canceled. I don't know if for a fact that they fully officially said that there will be story DLC, but they have said that this game will be supported for many years to come, and you would think story DLC is part of that. And so I think it's another thing, is like it came from a leak. They're not going to be like, hey, we're going to announce that the story DLC that we may not have announced has not been canceled, but we're also not officially announcing the story DLC. So I think it's like best, they did, again, typical PR of like, let's just ignore that part. But I, again, think that could very well be the case. Like, this guy has a track record, even though his name is really funny as Bathrobe Spartan. He has a track record of leaking Halo stuff. And so, of course, leakers can be wrong. And there's a very high chance at the same time that this person could be wrong. But because he has a track record, I think while you take it with a grain of salt, you take it with a little less grain of salt. and we got to just see how things go. But clearly things have not been going very well for 343 Industries as this Halo Infinite rollout has been. And sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So I don't think that the studio is at fault for any of this. Again, video game development is very hard, and Halo is a very important franchise. And so it is seen under a lot more scrutiny than most other games. But you might wanna adjust a little bit if I'm Xbox.
Yeah. One last quick point, kind of building off yours. To make a sports analogy, sometimes a great head coach, Hall of Fame head coach of a team, sometimes his voice gets lost in the locker room. He's just been there so long. The message has been the same for, a dozen plus years. And sometimes, the team just they get tired, not that they get tired of hearing the coach or thinking he's a bad coach, but they get tired of hearing the same message over and over again. And sometimes you just need a new voice in the room. Sometimes you just need different ideas. And when you're tossing around the same ideas all the time, sometimes you just get this echo chamber that you block out other ideas. And maybe it's time to, freshen that up a little bit. Like you said, maybe this DLC that supposedly may or may not be happening, maybe somebody else develops it and see where we go from there. Maybe it you give it back to 343 and they're like, oh, hey, we didn't even think about trying this, and this is actually really good. We should continue on this route. So
Yeah, completely agree. Well, if 343 Industries is going to be continuing to develop this DLC, it may be a little more difficult now after the layoffs that happened. We're going to the Video Games Chronicle for this article written by Andy Robinson, and it is Phil Spencer tells Xbox employees layoffs were painful, and it goes as follows. Microsoft's head of gaming, Phil Spencer, has addressed this week's round of job cuts at the company, telling staff they were painful choices. On Wednesday, Microsoft confirmed plans to lay off approximately 4.5% of the U.S. technology giant's 220,000 person workforce, which is around 10,000 people. Eventually, this was confirmed to have affected the company's gaming divisions, in particular, Halo developer 343 Industries, Bethesda Gaming Studios, and marketing. On Friday, Phil Spencer sent out a company-wide email obtained and published by Kotaku, in which he told employees the cuts would set it up for their long-term success. Quote, "This has been a difficult week across Microsoft and here inside our teams," he wrote. "Now that many of the one-to-one and team conversations have happened, I want to take a moment to reiterate the message that you heard from your leaders. This is challenging moments in our business, and this week's actions were painful choices. The gaming leadership team had to make decisions that we felt set us up for the long-term success for our products, businesses, but the individual results of these decisions are real. I know that hurts. Thank you for supporting our colleagues as they process these changes." The email continued, "Over the coming weeks, we will have many opportunities to connect and answer your questions, including the monthly gaming update next week for teams to attend that meeting, and I'm in close contact with teams at ZeniMax to provide support." And there was one thing that I wanted to pass along. Basically, this is scrolling down towards the bottom of the article. According to Business Insider, report published the same day, the company was deliberately targeting who it believed to be, quote, underperforming employees in at least some parts of the company. So, Pete, I got to ask you, how do you feel about the layoffs announcement and how, this impacts those teams, as well as with, I'm trying not to reveal what I want to talk about fully, but what do you think about this announcement from Phil Spencer to the company or to their employees saying hey, this sucks, these were painful decisions?
Well, every time we kind of goes back to last week, every time a CEO or a big wig or, someone on the board or somebody like that, somebody that's in charge says these decisions are painful, they're never more painful than the people that are given the pink slip. That's who they're most painful for. You can give all the excuses about how this is a difficult decision for us. We didn't really want to do this, but we ended up having to do it. And the people that are going to be most painful for, it's, again, always going to be the workers. It's always going to be the people that are having to deal with having to find a new job, having their source of income cut off. And the Business Insider report published that same day The company was targeting who would believe to be underperforming employees. What does that mean? What graphic were you using for that? Like, what was the metrics you were using to determine whether they were underperforming or not? Because if they were underperforming because they weren't doing a whole lot, but you weren't giving them any like sort of jobs to actually perform, like maybe they're on like a team that was just like not doing anything at the particular moment. How's that their fault? Because that happens, that will happen at corporations. Like you're on a team and the team's project is over or whatever, or they're in the middle of a turn, and they're not doing a whole lot for a couple of months. They come in and do some busy work and that's it. And then it's like, oh, well, you're just, you're an underperforming employee. It's like, well, what am I supposed to be doing right now? I can't, it's not like I can jump on another project that you're not giving to me, that kind of thing. So a lot of it is just, it's lip service. One of the things that's interesting that is not stated in this article, which granted it's probably about a year and a half, but back in fall of 2021, September thereabouts, Microsoft started a new stock buyback program, and that was supposed to be like a $60 billion that, you probably didn't need to spend all of it to buy back your stocks to make your shareholders and stockholders get more money, or your CEO get a bigger bonus because the shareholders and stockholders are happier that you're giving them more money. But that's how it goes, man. It's always how it goes. Is these corporations are focused on one thing, and that is to make money, and that is the only thing they care about, and that is the only thing they can do. And like this whole like I said at the beginning of this topic, no matter how painful it is for Phil Spencer, it's not as painful as it is for the person that got laid off. So and that's always what it comes down to.
So I know already if this clip gets clipped, I'm going to receive a lot of hate from people who are Xbox fans, but I'm going to say the things that I've kind of been seeing on Twitter, and I'm going to reiterate them because some people on Twitter were not understanding it. And basically, it's a lot of people were being like, in a sense, why are we criticizing Xbox so much, X, Y, and Z, all this jazz? And it's the fact that you're about to try to close on a company for $68 billion, and you had to lay off these people. And I get that you already earmarked this sale to happen, but you, technically speaking, did not have to spend $68 billion, or do not have to try to spend $68 billion, that you could have in some way, some form, kept these employees or offered them some sort of compensation to help with staying there. And so that's why there was a lot of outrage from some people on Twitter, was the fact that like some people just didn't understand that there was so much criticism because, again, you Xbox, Microsoft, you've earmarked $68 billion that you've just laid off 10,000 people because of cuts. And some other things that I saw in there because, of course, Sony has had cuts over the years, and their employee workforce has dropped. So some people were trying to basically say, like, play devil's advocate and be like, well, you're criticizing this, but you didn't criticize Sony. The one thing that I didn't see, and now this could totally be going on behind the scenes, but the way that things leak nowadays in the gaming industry, I think it would be out there. But I have looked up and I've seen articles of it, it's true, is that Sony and PlayStation CEOs or high executives have taken pay cuts during losses to offset the losses or try to offset the losses. Did Phil Spencer consider doing that to try to save some of these jobs? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that he should have. That is, I always say, people, get your money. Like, that's just unfortunately, how the world is. Get your money while you can. But it's just one of those things of like you're saying, as the, you have the more cynical approach always to big business and governments and stuff. But it's like, as you said, it doesn't hurt more than for the person who did lose their job. And so you always have to think, are there other ways that you could have done more to avoid that having to happen? It looks like you found something or something.
So sorry to cut you off, but I just typed in Phil Spencer take a pay cut. And from The Gamer, published 2 days ago by Rhiannon Bevan, Microsoft CEO enjoyed 10% pay raise just before layoffs. So there you go. Maybe he did take a pay cut alongside that. Maybe he didn't get a Christmas bonus, but it's like, and to couple along with that, there's another article that you sent about other companies. There's been a lot of layoffs. Vox Media, which wasn't mentioned in the article that you sent, laid off 7% of their workforce. The Vox Media owns places like The Verge and SB Nation. You're talking about GameSpot, Google, Giant Bomb. There's a lot of people cutting costs, partially because, especially in the tech industry, a lot of their money is made for advertising, and that's usually the first thing that gets cut off. But like talking about the other article you linked, I particularly like the last paragraph where it's talking about companies from Microsoft and Amazon are reducing staff and advertisers slashing budgets ahead of a recession manufactured by the Federal Reserve, but not everyone's feeling the pain. The CEO of IGN's parent company, Vivek Shah, made roughly $16 million in 2021. TPG CEO John Winkelried earned over $80 million in 2021, along with the hundreds of millions that he's already raked in his decades-long career at Goldman Sachs. And it's like I said, no matter how much you want to say that these were painful decisions for you to make, they ain't as painful as the person that's now got to find another job to support their family and loved ones. Yeah. I'm sorry. Your thoughts and prayers aren't going to work at this point.
And I totally get that we're talking about many-year difference, but I just, one of the things that I was talking about where I say like CEOs taking pay cuts to like when there's these losses is this is an article from 2014. I didn't bring it in here, but it's from GameSpot. It's written by Eddie Mukich, and it is, Kazuo Hirai, the Sony CEO, he took up to a 50% pay cut during their downturn because of economic losses. And in that same year, or I shouldn't say in that same year, in that same year, Satoru Iwata, who, rest in peace, of course, the beloved Nintendo president, he took a 50% pay cut during their financial struggles. So, like, I'm not saying that Phil Spencer had to do that, but it's one of those things of, was that considered to try to help save, some of these jobs? And at least according to your article, no. That you said 10% pay increase. I'm not for sure. But again, it's a tough time for these tech industries, these tech companies. They're not the only ones. Google, GameSpot, Giant Bomb, as you said, Amazon, all had layoffs and reduced their staff.
I want to clarify. It's the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, not Phil Spencer himself. That was my fault. That was my fault. But still, I mean, again, the Microsoft CEO is getting a pay raise. Because it wasn't just like Xbox that got these cuts, it was Microsoft overall is what we're talking about here. So it still works. It still is salient. So I just wanted to clear that up. I apologize for that. That's not my fault.
No, you're totally fine. And again, we're not just talking about Xbox here. I'm using them as an example, but I was talking about, again, Sony CEO cutting their pay back in 2014. Iwata for Nintendo doing the same. Where was those options on the table is basically my thoughts there. Let's go to another CEO, this one apologizing for some of the statements that they said last week. We're going to IGN for this article, and it is report Ubisoft CEO apologizes to employees over, quote, ball in your court comments. And it goes as follows. Oh, this was written by Carson Burton, by the way. Ubisoft is facing turbulent times financially and in-house, and CEO Yves Guillemot was forced to reckon with recent comments he made, shifting the blame to the staff. After canceling 3 unannounced games and delaying the release date of Skull and Bones for a 6th time, Guillemot told employees the ball is in your court to help get the $3 billion company back on track. The changes at Ubisoft were scrapped up to major challenges in the industry, underperformances of various games. But of course, that was not well received, and therefore the CEO has apologized for his previous comments, saying, quote, I heard your feedback, and I'm sorry this was perceived that way. Guillermo said, according to the sources present. When saying the ball is in your court to deliver our lineup on time and at the expected level of quality, I wanted to convey the idea that more than ever, I need your talent and energy to make it happen. This is a collective journey that starts, of course, with myself and with the leadership team to create the conditions for all of us to succeed together. Guillermo also remained vague about the potential for layoffs. Quote, it's not about doing more with less, but finding ways to do things differently across the company, Guillermo said. According to Kotaku's report, some developers within the company still feel the management is out of touch with the lower level staff. The Q&A, which lasted an hour, also did not address the recent call for strike at the company's Paris studio. Solidaires Informatique, Ubisoft's Paris tech union, asked the employees to go on strike in response to Guillermo's previous comments. The strike will reportedly last half a day on January 27th. And of course, just the final statement we'll read real quick. Ubisoft's particularly poor 2022 included no marquee blockbuster releases. Several projects were delayed, trapped in development hell, or simply failed to find a substantial audience. So, Pete, I want to say first, I apologize also because, of course, I read it. I will fully admit it. I read it last week, how Guillermo is saying he wanted it to be read. You, of course, like everyone else, was like, that's totally wrong. And he needed to apologize. So do you accept his apology?
Well, one of the best ways to say an apology and say sorry for something that you said is, I'm sorry this was perceived this way. You know, it's like, I'm not sorry that I said it. I'm sorry you took it the way you did. You know, maybe we could both work to be better at this. No, absolutely. I'm sorry. Like, look, I get to get it as a CEO, to get a position of that kind of power, you have to have a certain level of pride. That's like, you know, kind of like ferociousness to get to that level, and like where you kind of almost can't bow your head to anybody. When you're in a position of power and you're trying to talk down to people, if you want the people that are beneath you to respect you, you have to drop that pride. You have to be the one to extend your hand. You have to be the one to bow your head. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I'm not going to respect you if you're like, oh, I'm sitting on my throne and also I'm ordering you around. Okay. Like that's not the way I'm going to do it. So like whether or not Guillermo, like was thinking how he was, they were thinking when he was saying that quote, when he was putting out that email, your apology shouldn't start with, I'm sorry this is perceived this way. Your apology should be, I'm sorry that I said that. I need to work better on it. The rest of the statement, clarifying it, I wouldn't say is great either, but does clarify that they want kind of, again, there was a rah-rah speech. For however much you buy into said rah-rah speeches, I kind of think for the most part they are when they're a rah-rah speech from like the person above you, like directly above you, they can have a little bit of they are useful, because I think especially if it's like they're the people that are like in the trenches with you, because they know the pain that you go through. They know the pain. Like if somebody's giving me like a, hey, like if I'm having a bad day and somebody that I'm working with is like, hey man, you know, today sucks, but you know, there's only a couple hours left. We can get through this. Let's go. That's a lot better than if, you know, my boss who just came in from like a 3-hour lunch with like some of the higher ups comes in, hey man, you know, keep on working, keep going. You know, it's like, bro, you weren't even here. Like, what do you know? So yeah, I'm not surprised that a lot of people still think that there's a disconnect with the CEO, because yeah, there is, because a lot of them don't know the trials and tribulations of a lot of people that are below them. And that's not to say that every CEO that gets there hasn't gone through those struggles, but typically a lot of them they are put there from a business acumen. They're not somebody that has worked in like a tech place, or somebody that's like worked in the same industry as a lot of the people that they're developing games and stuff like that, unless they were game developers and then created a company and were like the founder. Somebody that just gets inducted into a CEO, because a CEO is typically just someone that's trying to encourage the corporation that they are in charge of to make more and more money for the corporation, for the people that own the corporation, and for the stockholders. They are more going to be people focused on a business acumen. They're not really going to be people that are just like, you know, somebody that was like in the field that the corporation necessarily works in. So yeah, I would 100% believe that the people that saw his explanation for his apology, like just not ignoring the fact that the way it started out was not even really an apology to begin with, would say like, no, you still are like, there's still a great disconnect here. And I'm also not surprised he didn't respond to the oncoming strike for half a day either. I don't even know what he would say, because it's not like he's going to say like, oh, hey, like, yeah, you all should go strike, by the way, or I'd really like it if you didn't.
I was gonna say it would likely be. I hope you guys don't, but there's like that won't change anything.
Like,
they're gonna strike. They're gonna strike.
That's not gonna go over. Yeah, that's not gonna go over well anyway. So I like that being a part of it. Is like, yeah, it kind of sucks, but also like, I don't know what he's supposed to say there. Nothing he's going to say is going to like encourage or discourage. Most people that are there probably already changed their mind or have their mind set on that.
Yeah, and so I think it's important for those that don't know, just to understand who Yves Guillemot is. So Yves is a French businessman, and him and his brothers co-founded Ubisoft. So like essentially, he's always been one of the CEOs of Ubisoft all these years, and so is a lot of people. They don't have the full stake anymore, of course, in their company. They've sold off parts of it to get more funding and things of that nature. But like of course, the Guillemot family still has majority control, if I remember correctly. So yeah, he likely, like you said, hasn't been in the trenches actually developing it. I think he was always kind of the money person behind it, and his brothers might have been more of the people who are actually doing the developing. But he has been with the company obviously since 1986, because that's when they founded the company. However, you made the comment earlier, and so I'm going to say the same thing with 343 Industries. Sometimes, right, you're tired of hearing the same rah-rah speeches and the same message going on. And so, like, right now, what could very well be the case is, like, Yves is not going to leave. Like, that's just not going to happen until he retires. But it's that disconnect of you've heard these comments or things said so many times that, of course, now it's the cynical side of you that just, like, even if he meant well, you're going to be like, screw that. Screw that. Because again, like, you don't have the financial problems or anything that we do, or you don't have the time crunch aspects of these games like we do. And so, like I said, while I received it, like when I brought it up last week, how it sounds like he intended it to be, as you said, that's not how it was perceived. And of course, we're seeing it. That's not how it was perceived. So I'm not shocked by this. Of course he did this, the apology, but I agree with you. And I was gonna interject, not to counter you, but basically to add to what you were saying. Yeah, you don't start your apology with, "I'm sorry you perceived it this way." What he should have said, or a better way he could have worded it, is exactly what I just said, which is like, "I'm sorry for what I said. I should have worded it differently. This is what I was intending." Right? Where then that way, it is still a, like, "I'm sorry you perceived it that way," but it is a nicer way of being like, "Look, I know how I presented it was not correct, and I messed up." Like,
you're putting the onus on yourself, even if it's kind of like a no offense, but it is kind of like a BS way to go about it. Yeah, you are putting the onus. The way it's phrased in this case is the onus is on you, the listener, for misunderstanding the message, instead of the onus being on me, the messagee or whatever, giving the statement and not presenting it the way I'd rather it have been received. And exactly. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I want to say here is one of the games that I actually was a little looking forward to, but I will admit I didn't realize, or I didn't even know about this game technically, or it didn't register in my head, is that Project Q is confirmed to be canceled by Ubisoft. Now, it's not been confirmed. It's one of the 3 that were canceled last week, but this was an arena-based PvP game that Ubisoft was putting together, and I liked everything I heard about what they were saying with this game, but of course it's canceled, so that sucks. And I hope.
It's not great.
I wonder if it could ever resurface again down the future. I'm not 100% sure. And the last thing I want to say, because I've actually been feeling this way for like the last month, is I've randomly had this urge that I want to go back and play The Division 2. So I may end up going back to get it, but like, can we hurry up and get the Division Heartland out here? I would really like to play some Division Heartland. Not like force the developers into crunch, but it's just one of those things. Can like we speed the timeline up? Like, can we speed the universe up real quick?
Like 6 months.
Yeah, so I can play that game, because I'd be pretty happy with that. Timing's sake, because we are getting a little long, we're gonna blow through these first up to articles real quick. So we're going to the PlayStation blog for this next one. It's PlayStation VR 2. There's 13 new titles that are coming out at launch, with also the launch lineup revealed. Now, please remember the lineup, or the launch window, is all the way through March 30th. But there's going to be up to 30 games now released for PSVR 2 by the end of March. And of course, those include games like Horizon Call of the Mountain, the No Man's Sky VR update, the Resident Evil Village updates, Gran Turismo 7 update, as well as a number of other games like Before Your Eyes, Kayak VR, Mirage, Pavlov VR, as well as Puzzling Places. Pete, are you excited to see such a, I guess, in a sense, robust launch coming by the end of March?
Yeah, I hope it's really good. A couple of games that I don't really have any plans to pick up PSVR 2, but a couple of games that I would have my eye on are Pavlov, which is a big VR shooter. I think it's multiplayer, if I'm not popular multiplayer PC VR shooter. That one looks really cool. And I mean, we were talking about football to start the podcast. I would love to see how a VR football game where you're like the quarterback, call me Joe Cool or whatever, and play the what is it, the NFL Pro VR? Yeah, NFL Pro era. Those are kind of the games, along with the big names that you mentioned, would be like the ones I'd be kind of looking at. I'm interested to see how this all goes.
Yeah, and I'm also going to just pass along real quick. One of the games that were going to be there at launch, Dark Pictures Switchback, that's been delayed till March 16th, but should, of course, still be out by the end of March. The big one, I've made mention of it every time we've talked about PSVR, but Zenith the Last City, the game that's supposed to be like Sword Art Online MMO, I am like really wanting to play that one. So like that would be like the first one I'd pick up.
What if this is a random aside, I'm sorry, but what if like a Sword Art scenario actually happened, where just like a bunch of people just got locked into a game like that? That'd be really wild.
That'd be wild.
What would be the laws, just like the governmental like aspect of just like that would be trickled down from that? I'm sorry. That's a whole nother podcast, but
yeah, that's a whole other podcast. But honestly,
you brought that up, so you bring that game up every time, and it's just like every time I think about it, I'm just like, if that actually happened, like there'd be a whole like mess of things that would like just translate from that. Anyway,
100%. So the last article,
that's another tangent.
The last article we're gonna go to is the Marvel's Avengers support is ending at the end of September. Polygon article for this one, Michael McWhorter. Of course, this has been confirmed by Crystal Dynamics that the last update for the game will be out on March 31st, and then the official support for that game will end on September 30th. You will no longer be able to purchase the game. Following that, you'll still be able to play it both on solo and online. However, as they said, because of course they're no longer addressing it, any issues that pop up will not be, of course, fixed. So they don't know how long you might be able to play if there's no fixes. However, when it comes to all the cosmetics, they are going to make those all free for all the players as a thank you for all the years of support, or of course the 2+ years of support. Pete, what do you think about the news?
Just a caveat off of that, I think those free things start on March. Is that March 31st? Is that just already started? I'm not sure.
Yeah, March 31st.
Anyway, it's always a bummer when a game has a pretty like even a cult following kind of goes. I don't know if I want to say goes under, but stops getting supported. Especially a Marvel game. Like you would think a game like this is popular enough that it would be have following and stuff like that for several years, but. You still got a little bit longer to play it. If you had an interest in playing it, you probably should get it sooner rather than later, because you won't be able to buy it as much anymore. But it's also very nice of them that they're releasing all the cosmetics and stuff for free for people. It kind of sucks for the people that might have spent money on that stuff. But that's always kind of that's always kind of the risk you take when you play a free to play game, and you buy something. The benefit is you're not buying necessarily that product to have it while other people don't. I mean, that's part of it, but also like you get it early, you get it first. So
Yeah.
but they're doing essentially all. It seemed like all the right things considering. Sucks that the game's going under, but if you enjoy the game, you still got some time to play it, and if you were thinking about getting the game, you still got time to buy it. Yeah. I mean, this is probably the right way to go about it, all considered.
Yeah, I think the game currently, if I remember correctly, is still out on Game Pass and on PS Plus, that you can check it out if you are interested. Marvel's Avengers, unfortunately, it stumbled out of the gate. It had the performance issues that really marred it, and then the delays in content is what really hurt that game. I know that some people, of course, found the game very repetitive, and that happens, I think, with the games as a service. And like you said, Avengers, it should have been a knockout of the park, but it stumbled and it just kind of never fully recovered from it. But the also, as you said, catch-22, so to speak, when it comes to buying those cosmetics, but you never would have known that when they get ready to shut down the game, they'd be releasing it. So, at least in my opinion, I wouldn't be upset about it, because it's like the only reason I'd be upset is if I bought something like today or like the day before they announced this. Then I'd be like, well, that sucks. I could have waited, right? But like if you bought something like a couple of months ago or even a year ago, like that, I wouldn't be upset about it. And I think it's a kind gesture to get it out there. And then one thing that I do want to pat them on is, we talked about this in past episodes, but like with the Hitman Go game getting pulled and you could no longer play it, like they're saying is like you can still play the game even after, if you own this game and you still want to go hop in and play it. It's just there's going to be no new content and no bug fixes, but it's still playable. So like that's at least a nice move, a nice gesture in that regard. Yeah. But again, that is coming at the end of September 30th. But you might want to pick up a game and start playing it this week. I'm going to tell you about games that are coming up this week, and it all starts with today, January 24th. And it's not today. I don't know why I said that. It's tomorrow, Tuesday, January 24th. You got Forspoken, PS5 and PC, Ryzen, PS4, Xbox One and Switch, World War Z for PS5 and Xbox Series, Moho Kenshi for PC, Walian Unexpected Guests for PC. On Thursday, January 26th, you have Power Chord for PC, Roller Drama for Switch, PC, iOS, and Android, Shoulders of Giants, Xbox Series, PC, Oddballers, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and Luna, Devolver Tumble Time for iOS and Android, Hitman World of Assassination, PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, Anniversary Wonder Boy Collection for PS5, PS4, and Switch, Never Awake for PS5, PS4, and Switch, the PS5 DualSense Edge controller, again coming out on Thursday, and then Friday, January 27th, you have Atone, Heart of the Elder Tree. I didn't put the consoles for that one. I don't know what that is actually coming out for. And Dead Space Remake for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Pete, any of these catching your attention?
I'm
checking what that one is coming out for here in a second.
That threw me off. I don't know why. It didn't dawn on me until you just pointed it out. A couple of the big ones, Dead Space Remake, I'll probably will not be buying it, but I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure, are looking forward to that. The Hitman World Assassination, I believe that is a remake, not necessarily a remake, but re-release trilogy. And if you wanted to pick up Hitman or ever wanted to try it, someone like me, this would probably be the time to do it. I had Devolver Tumble Time highlighted, not necessarily because I wanted to play the game, but I found the trailer that I watched pretty amusing. So I at least recommend watching that. It's probably like 90 seconds out of your day. And it's gotten kind of like a negative press, I guess I'd say. Forspoken has been kind of like catching my eye. I don't know if for the right reasons, but I've been seeing a lot of people talk about it, complain about the
voice acting.
The voice acting and the text, which is like, I listened to some of the clips and they're just like, this is terrible. I'm like, I mean, I don't know if I'd say terrible. It's kind of whatever. I laughed at a couple of the clips because I thought they were actually funny, but my humor is kind of more stupid than most. So maybe that's a problem. I don't know.
Yeah, I will say that, and I've got to real quick do that. But I'm looking forward to playing Forspoken at some point. I'm not getting it right away. I know that the reviews haven't been received very well, but I've always kind of envisioned after the subsequent trailers that this was going to be a very mixed game, and so of course it's coming out as a very mixed game. I kind of anticipated low 70s. I've been saying anywhere from 72 to 74 depending on what day you ask me, but I was thinking more high 60s, low 70s, and of course it's at that high 60s right now. Still looks a lot of fun to me. Still looks like something I would really enjoy. And it's an isekai. Like if you were randomly thrown into a world and you were all of a sudden able to do like magic things and stuff, you'd probably say some cringy dialogue stuff because you'd be like, "What the hell? Like this is insane. This is crazy. X, Y, and Z." Right? So I totally get it. The Dead Space remake, as you said, of course, that's a game that I'm not scared to play, but is one that I think that looks pretty cool. And I know that some people, of course, the reason I throw that out there is like you said, you're not really a dead horror fan, so you're not going to jump on that one. The one that I do want to shout out, there's two games I want to shout out. The first one I'm going to shout out is because I've played the demo, Power Chord, on PC. It is basically a deck builder game. It was a lot of fun. I played the demo of that back when it was on one of the Steam Next Fest. I tweeted out about it, my experience with that game, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Very flashy colors, and I love the aspect that it's basically like it's like Battle of the Bands type of thing, but it's with combat and stuff. So I really like that one. I think that one is a sleeper look at. The other game is a game that I've had my eye on for a little while, and I will say it's because of advertisements, is Moho Kenshi. Moho Kenshi is like almost like a deck builder, but also a tactical strategy game, and it's set in a kind of a setting of like a Japanese dynasty, in my opinion, from what I've seen. And it's like those are all the things that kind of click with me when it comes to games. I love tactical strategies. I've talked about this. I love that setting of the like samurai-esque warrior type of things. And I also am always been a fan of like card games. We've talked about this. I've just never been able to really dive into it. So like this kind of meshes a lot of things that I like. So I've had my eye on that one, and maybe might pick that one up depending on the price and of course if I can get through my backlog.
As always, I understand the pain.
Yeah, as always. But anyway, Pete, we have gone quite a bit for this episode. Is there anything you want to leave our listeners with before we send them off into the week this time?
Just be good to one another. It's going to be a short week, technically. I don't know if you're going to tell them that. But
it is.
Plan right now. All right, the plan right now is it's going to be a really short turnaround for us. We're gonna have a Monday night game and a Thursday night game, so or it's a Friday night, I guess. Technically.
Friday night game. Yeah. So I was just about to get there as my final thoughts for the episode. Basically, with things how the schedule kind of shaped out. This episode was actually last week's episode. This was supposed to be recorded on Saturday, so we're recording this episode, and we will be back again on Friday night. Instead of my normal stream of video games, we're going to be streaming the One More Game podcast. So you'll have 2 episodes this week to check out. So I hope you come and join us again here on Friday. But that is all that we have here for the One More Game podcast. I've been one of your co-hosts, Jeremy Culver, a.k.a. Darce. This is the California Thirst Quencher, Pete Legia, and we really enjoy bringing this to you. So as always, everybody, stay hydrated, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep on gaming. We'll see you guys on the next episode.